Welcome to Arsenal Above All. Arsenal's title charge was shunted by the Unite Emery Express from Birmingham. Is that the end of the road? To discuss it with me, I've got Brian Haley, Stephen Osakwe, and Daniel James. They've answered the call, the bat signal, the Cobra meeting, SOS on their WhatsApp text message, whatever you want to throw at it. We're here to discuss and have a little bit of a therapy session as we look back and look forward to what's to come on Wednesday night against Bayern in what is a massive and important week for Arsenal Football Club. But before all of that, let's go. Welcome to the show, Brian. How you doing, man? How you feeling after that kick in the guts?
Well, you know what, Mike? I'm hoping you're going to save me £2.5 going to the Priory. But that way, we're getting it all out tonight.
Yes, we are indeed, man. I'm cheaper as well. So yeah. Thanks for your time, man. Thanks for coming on. Steve, how you doing, man? How you feeling?
Yeah. Hi, Mike. Hi, Brian. Hi, Daniel. Next.
Thanks for coming on, man. If this is how you're going to be answering the questions, it's going to be a quick show. So that's all good. And finally, I've got Daniel James, the vlogmeister, the man on with his finger on the pulse. He weren't one of the ones that was on his toes when the first goal went in. He stayed right to the end, I believe. So how you doing, Daniel? Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, all good, man. I'm not too bad, thanks. I think, like many people, it's a good job that many offices around the country were quiet because obviously nobody really got a result, really. So it's all good. Office was a miserable place today, unless you're a City fan. And let's be honest, there aren't many of those around. So
True. No, thanks, guys, for coming on. So let's get into it. But before we do, I think you guys will appreciate that obviously it's been 35 years since the Hillsborough disaster, and we'll obviously like to pass on our best wishes and thoughts to all the family and friends that have been affected and still affected by that tragedy, which we probably all saw with unfolding on TV at the time, and a terrible tragedy, and again, thoughts with the family and friends who were all affected, and hopefully. They say you never walk alone, and obviously situations like this, football does come together. So, thoughts with them, and hopefully things will be better, and justice will be served for all those families and friends involved. But yeah, okay. So yesterday, probably one of the weirdest, strangest days in Premier League history. Three-way title race, which totally spun on his axis with that Liverpool defeat against Palace, which was just unreal. An amazing defensive performance by them. And you're thinking, great, this is our chance. We could actually win here and go ahead, clear ahead of both of those two. And obviously, we'll start, Brian, with yourself with the lineup. There were rumours that Gabriel wasn't fit. There was a possibility that he might miss out with the game on Wednesday to come. But what was your thoughts on the lineup as well, and just how that first half transpired? Because for me, it was like it got to 20 minutes, and I was a bit concerned. But what was your thoughts on the lineup and just how we approached that first half on the back of what happened at Anfield?
I just don't know why he decided he wanted to tinker with a winning team, or an unbeaten team at this year, and tinker it around and play a system, allowing Kai Havertz to go back into a system that he basically is, we haven't seen a best of Kai Havertz in that position. We haven't performed actually with Kai Havertz basically in that position very well this season. So why he thought that he had to leave him in the side if it was just a case, like, my head's scrambled at this moment in time, because when you look at it, you just think to yourself, what was he thinking of? What was he actually thinking of? You know, we haven't lost this year. He's arguably been one of our better players in the centre forwards position, and then put him into a position which he basically hasn't performed in. It's like I did scratch my head. I think the situation also with Jesus, I think some of you may disagree with me, but you either play Trossard or him. You don't play them both if that's going to be the case. Unless Havertz drops out, and you know, I don't know. My head was a bit scrambled, to be honest with you. I don't know what he was thinking. I don't know if it was a situation with thinking that Villa didn't have Douglas Luiz in the side as well because he was banned. You know, so they kind of get a bit of a license to basically to Havertz to play in the position there. But it just you know, it just didn't work, and I don't know why he even thought about putting that you know, putting him out there in that position, knowing what he's done over recent weeks for us. Yeah, baffles me.
Yeah, what do you think as well, Steve, with that performance? I mean, you know, you talk about, you know, stepping up to the plate and leading by example, and you've got to levy that at Martin Odegaard, who was outstanding from you know, until the second half where he sort of faded, but you probably could understand with the amount that, you know, the amount of running he does and what he does to go through. But what was your thoughts on his performance and just him being let down? Apparently in the Premier League at home, he hasn't got an assist. Apparently, I saw a stat somewhere. I need to make sure and make sure that's true. But apparently, he hasn't got an assist in a home game in the Premier League, which kind of tells you, you know, you saw evidence of that. Why on yesterday, right? But what's your thoughts on his performance and just the people that, you know, his guys that let him down? He was just firing blanks. You really making decisions which, to me, told that the pressure again. These guys are sort of not performing under the pressure again.
Yeah. Look, our captain is our captain for a reason, and he leads by example. If that stat is true, Mike, that's crazy. But we've been there before, if you know what I mean. We've had it with Ozil that time when he raked up so many quick assists that season and got to about 20 assists or wherever it was, and then the people in front of him just didn't hit the back of the net. You know, to go back to the lineup very briefly, we overthought it. We overthought it. And by we, I'm talking about Arteta. You don't break up a winning lineup, like Michael said. You have to win the next game. And our next game was Villa after Bayern Munich, and we had to win it. I said to you in the last chat, Mike, if you play Jesus up front, then he has to start with Martinelli because they work well together. You can't have Havertz in that left eight and play Zinchenko because Havertz doesn't offer the same sort of cover that Granit Xhaka was offering to Zinchenko last season. As you said, rightly so, and as Brian rightly said, at the beginning of the season, it didn't work. It hasn't worked. And then we changed it up and he went up top because of injuries, forced into it, whatever it may be. And it started working for both him and the team. So to change it up and to put him in the left eight made no sense. I mean, if you were going to do anything to offer Zinchenko that cover, you'd play Rice in the left eight and then put Jorginho as the holding, just to sort of dictate play a bit more. Everything was just baffling. We need a striker. You know, we've talked about it. We've not talked about it in recent weeks because we were scoring goals, but we need a striker. Our form. If you look at it this season, especially this season, our away form's been better, isn't it? Our away form's been better this season for the better part. Look, all the score lines still away from home. At home, there seems to be, I don't want to say an anxiety amongst the players, but there seems to be something there holding them back.
Yeah, 100%. I think, we just can't seem to keep a clean sheet. I think we kept 5 clean sheets at home so far this season, and obviously a lot more, you know, away from home. But Daniel, you were there. what was the feeling? What was the atmosphere like at the start? You know, when that Liverpool result came through. You know, my wife who works there, she said there were so many people in the concourses watching the game. You know, because it was obviously how important it was. There were so many people there. You know, and then that result comes through, and you go into the ground, into the bowl. You think, okay, and then you see what transpires. A lot of people were saying it was reminiscent of the West Ham performance, where we just was just the decision making again. There was we all talked about the Jesus header where he tries to go towards goal, and then instead of heading across, that was a poor decision under pressure. There was Havertz go through a couple of times, and then again just not looking convincing at all. And people talk about the system and everything and changing it. And the fact that Havertz got in a couple of times on that system showed the kind of the system kind of worked. We created the chances, and then there was the ball that Odegaard played to Saka, lovely ball slid through, and then Saka takes a really, really bad first touch. When have we seen him take a bad touch like that in that situation? And then he compounds it by not hitting across the goal. He goes for the near post. Again, these guys making these decisions, really, really poor decisions in this situation. But what was your thoughts on just how the atmosphere went and just during that first half, Dan, as you saw it?
Yeah, before the game, the atmosphere was amazing. It was. We knew that Liverpool had lost, so everybody was like really buoyant, really in an expectant mode. Really, we were all expecting a fantastic performance. We know that Villa are a good team on their day. We know that Emery is a great tactician, so we knew that it was never going to be easy. It was never going to be handed on a plate. But like you said, Bri, I don't know why he's felt the need to tinker so much. It's like he's rewarded Trossard and Jesus for those decent minutes at the end of the Bayern game by starting them today. And with hindsight, it just weren't the right thing to do. Jesus is worrying me quite a lot, as we've said. He's worrying me a lot. His stats are really poor. 4 goals and 3 assists this season. Odegaard's stats are worrying me also in terms of his assists. He's only got 6 assists all season. So there lies a problem, I guess. We're lacking a striker to put the ball away and to put the chances away that Odegaard is supplying. He's supplying a lot of balls to these guys and they're missing a lot of chances. So inherently, we have a massive striker problem. We've known this for a while. We haven't had a really good striker for a very long time, arguably since Giroud left. We haven't had someone who's reliable in and around the box to stick it in the net. And it's going to be an issue until they address it. So yeah, a lot of shocks with the lineup. Zinni always causes anxiety, and I would say that he caused a lot of the anxiety around the stadium. Definitely, a lot of the anxiety was based around him taking silly touches in our own half, misplaced passes, losing all. He lost 90% of his duels. 80 or 90% of his duels. He won 1 out of 5 of his duels, and these other stats were just terrible. So there was great anxiety whenever he was in and around the ball. And I think in general, the back four, I don't know if they actually 100% trust him, if I'm honest. I don't think they do. And it translated on the pitch, really. And I guess we'll develop the discussion further from there. But that's kind of how it started off for me.
Yeah, it was just so frustrating. We did everything, but score. Again, just the decision making. People like Jesus and Zinchenko, who last season have brought us on a level. But it's funny how quickly football changes, because it's almost like they don't provide us with that what we need now in those positions. I think, as you said, I don't think you can trust Jesus up front anymore. I think, whether it was by fault or design, Havertz as the false 9 is the position, or the that's where he should be playing for the foreseeable, for the next 5 or 6 games we've got, because we had that great record, right? This is the first defeat in January. Since the turnaround, he's played him in that position. Jesus is, I think, it's common knowledge that we're managing him through games because of his knee. So there was a situation where I think someone played the ball through to him in the first half, and you could just see, their defender just ate him up. He weren't going anywhere. So he's got to a point where you've got to play ball to feet to him now. So that changes the whole dynamic of his play. He can't get in behind. We know Havertz can to a certain extent because he's got the range, long legs, and he's a little bit quick over the first couple of yards. But I don't think you can rely on Jesus in that position anymore as a 9. You've got to play. He's got to be used as a left where he can do the doggies. He can do the defensive work like he did against Man City when we played them away. And I think Zinchenko has just served his purpose now. I don't think we can rely on this guy to start in games of this level. I think you have to kind of respect your position a little bit. And maybe if you had someone more defensive minded like a Kivior, who has been dropped out a little bit. He had a bit of a nightmare against Bayern in that first half against Sane, but who wouldn't, against Sane? People kind of forgetting how good he is just because he's played in Germany. But I think you probably you should have went with someone more defensive minded against that team because they're fourth in the table. They're no mugs. They're a decent side. So that was just frustrating. In that, looking back in hindsight, it was weird. I think again with Trossard as well. I think you mentioned Trossard as well. I just think he's another guy that when he starts games, he just doesn't bring anything. There's something missing from his game, And yes, he should have scored that goal. That was a bad miss. But I just think again, he's a wild card you can bring off the bench and do something. And it's almost like you say the same thing with Martinelli now. But even though Martinelli came on and he switched off, he was just totally switched out of the game. As we talk about the goals in the second half. So we go in at half time 0-0, but that's lucky because obviously people say, "Oh yeah, with Trossard scores that goal, Brian. Oh, it's a different game." You kind of forget that Ollie Watkins could have scored because of our messing about. Gabriel, who's kind of reverted back to last season's Gabriel. He looked rattled all game. I don't know what happened to him. Maybe he was just a bit concerned about Watkins, but he plays the ball, smashes it into Zinchenko, who turned his back to the game as well, which is again a stupid mistake. They could have went 1-0 up. But the second half, Brian, if you'd have said we played 2 days ago, I would have kind of said, okay, played Thursday night, Conference League and whatever, but we didn't. We played on Tuesday, as we know. But there was one team that started the second half and looked like the other team. We were still in the dressing room for some reason. I don't know what had happened, whether something was said at halftime. There were rumours that some of the players were kicking off with Zinchenko for kicking the ball out earlier in the first half when their player was on the ground and it might have kicked off in there. I don't know. But Brian, that second half, what happened? Was that down to tiredness? Was it down to the lack of rotation? Was it a combination of that? Was it a Emery masterclass? Because it got to a point where I before the first goal, I was watching this and I thought this guy was going to turn up on the touchline. I thought he was going to turn up because that's how I was feeling. I thought, Jesus Christ, I could see what's happening. Just Mikel, do something, make a change, make a substitution. But what was your thoughts, Brian, on that second half and just how we came out?
I don't know what it is. I think at the moment it seems like we're just a bit too emotional. And what I mean by that is that in the games that we've been winning and stuff like that, when we the defensive kind of blocks and stuff like that, we've been so emotionally charged. It's like we're on some sort of emotional, it's emotional come down in some respects at the moment. The way that we are defending, sometimes the elementary mistakes that have been made, the kind of we're looking a little bit more suspect when basically we have the ball to our feet with a little bit of pressure on us and stuff like that. And it's just I don't know at the moment. It's just everybody's talking about Emery masterclass. We were masters of our own downfall, basically. It was as simple as that. We allowed them into that football match. rather than the fact that they took the chances. And you can see that was going to happen through the first half, going right into the second half. You can see it happening. If we didn't score, it was going to be one of those days. The Trossard chance with Martinez saving that could have been the turning point of the game. To be honest with you, that could have been, because then Villa may have had to open themselves up slightly as well. But they were, as long as it stayed 0-0, they were going to be compact. They was always going to play on the break, and then we're always. I suppose when you look at it with the Liverpool game as well, we were always going to look to try and chase a victory. We've always said about game management. Okay, sometimes you just have to literally just manage a game. If you have to go and I know I don't want to sound negative, but if you think that taking a point would be the best thing to do against someone who's fourth in the league, okay, I would have taken the point. Just shut up and just take the point, because we ain't playing well enough to basically win the game. Take the point, because I'd rather have that than basically see what we saw in the last 15, 20 minutes in particular. Okay, virtually, giveaway goals. I'd rather have us just shut up and just say we'll just take the point. And if it meant that we emptied the stadium, we got booed or whatever, I would have taken the point, because now we are in a position where we're having to dissect a 2-0 defeat at the end of the day, So, yeah, it's not vodka in here, but it should be.
Yeah. I think you're pretty much like most of us, really. Just how that was just unraveling. It just looked like everything was just coming wave after wave. We couldn't get out. It looked like Odegaard had run himself ragged, because he was normally the guy that leads the press. But I think also you got to look at the fitness of Jesus, because I think we literally are managing this guy through. I don't think he can play more than an hour. He played obviously a good 20-25 midweek as well. So I just think those two, it just dropped off, and it just allowed Villa to press, to dominate the ball. But Steve, does this go back again to Arteta, which you said last season and season before, that the lack of quality, is the lack of trust in making those changes and trusting those players to come in off the bench a little bit earlier? People were saying, how comes Partey didn't start? What's going on there? Tomiyasu, came on late again. Are we managing these guys properly? The fitness and the risk element of it. Is he? Again, people are saying Arteta's Achilles heel is this. His squad management, his rotation, and his game management when things aren't going the way he wants to. And I did look at the Martin Odegaard's stats, and that is true. He hasn't had a single assist in a home game this season, which is mad. And you can't blame that on him, can you? Because you see the performance and what he did yesterday. He's putting stuff on the plate for people and they're not finishing. But yeah, what's your take on that second half slump, Steve? Was it just fitness? Was it a masterclass? To be fair, Emery came out and said, they said, "Oh, what did you do differently?" And he said he didn't do nothing differently. And that's what he said. He said we didn't do anything differently. Second half. So what? I've answered your question.
That's yeah. Well, next. I'm joking. Look, I'm going to quickly go back to the Gabriel thing, just very briefly. All right. Gabriel suffered in the last two games, especially the Villa game, is because Zinchenko's there. Okay, so that's forcing his mind to react a bit more. Zinchenko, if he's on his side of the pitch, and I'm being respectful here, but if he's on his side of the pitch, he's not having to run to his side of the pitch and the ball hitting him on the back and Watkins getting that shot off and that's hit the post and then luckily gone out. Even for the Tielemans shot, who was the nearest person to him? It was Zinchenko. What side of the pitch is he on? The wrong side of the pitch. That was the thing, chaos. Unfortunately. That sort of panic that Daniel mentioned and yourselves have mentioned, that sort of chaos does unfortunately breathe through to the rest of the team. And Mike, to answer your question, we Arteta has to take responsibility for it, because we've all talked about it, especially last season, about how you rotate your squad. He can say that he doesn't like. For me, there's not an issue. You can't say that you can't trust those players, because you've had opportunities to get rid of them players. So Reece Nelson, for example, you had opportunity to get rid of him. You offered him a new contract. Eddie Nketiah, you had a chance to get rid of him. You offered him a new contract. Then play them. That's been my only thing from back when we were stewards and assessors, Mike. I've always just said you have to play them. Zinchenko is probably better suited in that left eight. If you were going to do anything, stick him in that left eight, because he's not a left back. He's not a full back. Let him attack, because that's what he wants to do. But you also have to instruct him to release the ball quickly. He takes too many touches. He tries to be too clever. He's not that guy. Do you know what I mean? He's not that guy. So the second half starts off, and I'm not surprised Emery just said, look, just carry on. Arteta's got to try and, we're at home, so he's got to try and say force. He wants to win. He doesn't want to lose. He doesn't want to hold out. And I get that. You've got to respect that. You want to win. A win is what you're in the business for. But you've got to realise what's causing you problems early. I remember that time when he took off Nuno Tavares after about 20 minutes or whatever, because he was having a shocker. Should have done the same with Zinchenko. He's I get that he wants to invert, and I get that he's always going to be in the middle. But when I said that, there were at times when he's next to Saka. That doesn't make sense to me, because who's covering you? Because it ain't Havertz.
Yeah.
So you're then stuck with having going, right, if that ball goes over to the left, they're open.
Yeah.
True to form, that's what happened. So the second half started off, we were poor. It is what it is for that. I mean, like I said, there's a catalogue of mistakes that lead to the goals. The balls could have been cut out and stuff like that. But if you're the manager, you must know that you've got to manage your squad. We've talked about it over and over and over and over and over and over again. We've talked about it to death, to be perfectly fair. So this one's on Arteta. It's going to happen. It happens to the best managers. So, I look at it objectively now, but it's on his shoulders that we lost that game.
Yeah, I'd say on him as well, because I think, as we said earlier, Daniel, I think the chances were there. We created the chances. The system allowed, Havertz to break through a couple of times, and he just didn't show any conviction whatsoever. There was one where he ran through. I don't even think he was looking to shoot. It looked like he was looking to square it and there was nobody there. There was not. Jesus weren't there. When you look at it, you see the way he's hitting the ball. He's not shooting. He's looking to lay it off. There's just no conviction. What are you trying to shoot from that angle? And there was an incident where I think the ball broke to Jesus. He turned and he ran through. Simple ball through to Trossard. He messed that up as well. He messed the pass up, and Trossard was clean through on goal. So I kind of agree with you that the Zinchenko situation, his play just caught a lot of disruption to the whole system and everything. And Havertz as well, just progressing the ball and everything, just kind of falls down with him. But I think as well, the players, they didn't just lack composure. I mean, I don't know what it was like with you, Daniel. I know there was loads of stuff with Zinchenko, with him kicking the ball out and stuff. But the second half performance, I mean, you could feel it on the watching it here, at home. It's like it was almost like inevitable. What was it like for you watching that? And then what's your take on just how we just sort of fell apart in that second half? Again, this is like another 2 goals we conceded. We conceded 4 goals in 2 games. Both at home. We had this, much faulted defense. Defensive to the brick wall. I see you doing it in tribute. Your background to Saliba and Gabriel. Obviously they didn't step up to it, so I appreciate that. But what was your thoughts, man, on just that second half sort of capitulation? Again, was it just the legs or
for me? For me, it was. You mentioned the West Ham game last season earlier. It was worse than that for me, because you're at home. You got the crowd behind. Even at 1-0 down, the crowd were even at 2-0 behind, the crowd was still getting behind. Yeah, there were a few people left, but the majority, it wasn't the majority. The crowd were really still getting behind the team. And I think that second half for me was just, it was worse than that West Ham one. Given the fact we could have lost that game by 4, had the post gods not been on our side. But it was just as bad as I've seen, really. And I think there's so many factors we can point at it. I think the point you made, I think it was you, Steve, who made that point around Gabriel not trusting Zinni on his side. I think that's 100% correct. I don't think them two work really well together at all. Gabriel has been solid, but with him and Zinni, they both can tend to be a bit chaotic at times. Gabriel's been solid with Kiwior today, so I'm not sure, you get me, why Arteta felt they need to break it all up so much. He's punished Kiwior quite badly, really, for his performance against Bayern. I don't think it was really fair to him, to be honest. He's been solid throughout. One game, you're up against some of the best forwards in the world, Gnabry, Sane and Kane. Come on, it's not Luton Town or Wolverhampton Wanderers, it's Bayern Munich. No matter what's going on in their league, they've still got some of the best players in the world that start for their national teams, you know what I mean? So I think he's been unfairly treated the last 2 games. Come off at half-time against Bayern. Maybe tactically that was the right thing to do. But then to leave him out completely against Villa, I don't know. I thought that was a bit cruel. Then to bring in Zinni, I agree with one of you guys who said earlier, was there a need to play Zinni in this game? I don't think so. All these attributes about, this kind of inverting and moving into the midfield and all of that. I do think you're right, Mikey. I think you said earlier that teams are starting to be able to pick that off now. Unless you can do it like Pep, who has a really, really systematically tight way of doing it, whereby if he has got an inverted fullback going into midfield, there's somebody else there covering. With us, that's not happening. As one of you guys said, it's not happening. Havertz ain't dropping back in there to cover. Do you know what I mean? So I don't know. Maybe it's going to change. Maybe it's going to change with the change of personnel once Timber comes back. I don't know. We can only speak of next season really on that. We can't really talk about that now. But we spoke about injuries as well. You mentioned injuries. I think they're killing us. And yes, Arteta is partly to blame for that. Smith Rowe's been given a new contract. He's hardly been playing, even though he's been in the squads. El Nene was given a new contract. He's hardly played. Eddie and Reece given new contracts, hardly played and hardly contributed. We're working with a handicap basically. And for me, as I've said in my last comment a few minutes ago, I feel like Jesus is a massive, massive issue for us. One of the pundits wrote about it this week. I can't remember who it was, but I read an article on it, and at first I was being a bit defensive, but having thought about it after I read it, I'm like, you know what? It's an issue. It really is an issue. When you see Watkins and the way he operates for Villa, like always on the shoulder of the last man, causing a nuisance, any little scraps in around the box, he's going to take advantage. He's quick, he's strong, he's good in the air. It's just such an all-round good centre forward to have. And we just don't have it. Jesus, for me, if I'm honest with you guys, based on the last 2 seasons, I think Jesus is a flop. I'm not just saying that based on emotion right now. I'm actually saying it based off his statistics and based off his availability for us. I don't think it's worked out. It was a good kind of vision for the project, but I think next year we're really going to have to think about changing that and getting someone in. Because for me, it's just not working. It's just not.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree. I think I said a while back that it could work out that Jesus is the upgrade on Nketiah, and we still haven't got the replacement for Aubameyang yet. When you look at it like that, so because I think if you get a striker in, a number 9, and you kind of keep Jesus around, and you've got Havertz to play as that false 9, then you've kind of got your cover for that 9, and then you can allow someone like Nketiah to go, and then you haven't really weakened the squad in that instance. You kind of you strengthened it. So I think that's definitely something that Arteta needs to look at, because I don't think you can rely on him anymore. And I definitely think Havertz is, when we signed, I can't remember who I did the show with. It's so long ago, but I think we all kind of said that if he's brought in as the plan B as that falls, that 9, then yeah, this could be turned to be a good signing. Turns out that he starts as his left 8. It doesn't work. It shows little flashes and glimpses, and then lo and behold, turn the new year, he plays as that centre forward, and things start to click, and things start to go well. And it's like, well, we were gaslighted. We were gaslighted by Arteta. When they drew with Fulham. Remember when we drew with Fulham 2-2, and they had 10 men.
Yeah.
He was talking about, you don't know what you're talking about. We played 48 different formations against Fulham. And say, we don't know what we're talking about. Arteta, Havertz is going to work as a left 8. Oh, lo and behold, January turns around. The guy's playing at 9, and we're cooking. We're smashing teams left, right, and centre. Oh, lo and behold, we put him as left 8 again, and things sort of kind of go a little bit haywire again. But hey, we don't know what we're talking about. But so it's kind of hopeful that this is a little bit of a shot in the arm or a kick up the backside for Arteta and for the team, because obviously we've got some big things to come. But we won't go over the goals that we conceded. Pretty bad again. Bad goals to concede. I think you said, Steve, so many mistakes. Zinchenko over on that side. Ball coming across, Raya and Saliba not musical statues, and Gabriel, and then Rice ball watching. Martinelli doesn't look at Bailey once. I think he looks at him once, and he just doesn't even bother to go over to that side. He's just really bad.
Yeah, the irony of that, Mike, is actually the cross itself, because Havertz went out to the cross and didn't actually even get his body in front of the ball to stop the cross.
Right.
Yeah.
So that's where it started. That's effectively where it's kind of started from. He only has to go out there and defend the cross, and he didn't actually do that. And the trouble ensues itself from there.
On top of that, guys, I don't know what's happened. It's not been spoken about.
So just a quick mention.
Oh, go on.
No, go on. This is all right.
I was just going to say, just quickly. Thanks, Mike. He corrected me. Actually, I said that we haven't had a top striker since Giroud, but it's actually since that first year and a half of Aubameyang. But separately to that, what's not been spoken about enough of is what's gone on with Martinelli this season. Maybe we could talk about that another time. But his dip has been shocking. I don't know if it's form or confidence or fitness. Don't know. But,
he's been very inconsistent. I think with Martinelli, I just don't think he's got the game his game's the game intelligence. I think that he still plays like he's on the streets. He just gets the ball and his head down. His crosses are haywire. He makes the wrong choices, and I think something's happened. I think obviously the game. We scored when we beat, was it Sheffield United? Wasn't it? We beat them away from home, and he scored in that game, and he got injured in that game. And I think since he's been brought back, it seems like he just wants to get back in the team and play, because there was an incident what was the game now? There was an incident when Arteta was going mad on the touchline, and for a split second it cut to Martinelli, and he was sort of doing that to him. He was like telling him to calm down, and you could see him saying like calm down. And I thought, that's Arteta won't like that, and he's showed a little bit of disrespect to the guy, and I just thought the way he switched off as well with that goal, all the video data guys will see all of this. They'll see Zinchenko out of place, on multiple occasions, especially for the goals. They'll see Martinelli and Rice, switching off, and is that part of Rice being run ragged because he's played with a double pivot since January, and all of a sudden you chuck him in on his own against this Villa side. Do you know what I mean? So there's that aspect of it as well. But I definitely think, Dan, who knows? He might be one of the guys that we might cash in on. You never know. You know, if someone comes in for, you know, you just don't know, especially if there's some little, you know, ruction there between him and Arteta. People were saying, "Oh, look at the way he's talking to, you know, Martinez after the game. He's like he's it's not affected him. The results not affected him a little bit."
Yeah.
But them two are tight. You know, them two. There's a history between them two. You know, when Martinelli came over as a kid, you know, first come to club, you know, Martinez took him in as one of his own. I think he invited him around for Christmas and stuff like that with his family because he didn't have anyone else. So they're pretty tight. But yeah, I'd say keep an eye on that one. I'd say keep an eye on that one in some, because I just don't think his game has progressed as much. He's still kind of making the same decisions as he did when he kind of first came through. Again, that incident where he could have went round Konza, he should have just knocked it past him, but he didn't. He made the wrong decision, and he allowed Konza just to strengthen him off the ball. And it's like, he's bigger than you. Just knock it past him, but he didn't do that. But yeah, could go on about that for ages. About just the players. You know, again, we've got to give credit to Odegaard, who you know, led from start to finish. You know, he was only one. You know, this shot is sort of like a Where's Wally shot, but he is there somewhere, and he's there doing a lap of honour and applauding all the fans that were there. And in that picture, there's not a single Arsenal player there doing it with him. So I think, you know, credit for him. He looked really pissed off getting pulled off as well. There was a look in his face where he looked over and he was like, wow, really? Like a little bit of shock on him, because for me, with 10, 15 minutes to go, I want Odegaard on the pitch still. You know what I mean? You know, because you got injury, it makes sense, right? You just want him on there, and then Arteta come out and said what he had a little issue, just covering his back. You know, when you've got Havertz dropping the performance he did, and Saka as well, because he doesn't escape it as well. He hid second half. I don't know if you would have seen it, Daniel, if he was there, but for me, there was instances where White had the ball. And he could have given it to Saka. Saka didn't want to know, man. He didn't come short or anything. I think this guy needs to be careful, you know, because on the numbers, you can see the numbers, but on the eye test, I think this guy's had the numbers have masked a really average season for him. I really do think so. I just don't think this guy is as good as we want him to be, you know, as we think he is. You know, we can get into the debate about him and Foden, whatever. We'll leave that to other people. But I just think that his performance yesterday, you know, we need to highlight that as well. He needs to step up and deliver next Wednesday, which we'll go on to, Bri. I mean, what do we do with that? Do you go? You know, what would you do? Would you bring in Kiwior back in, or would you go Tomiyasu? Can you risk Tomiyasu in that instance in a game like that when he's been? I don't think he started the game since he's got fit. He's just been given like 20 minutes here and there.
It's a one-off cup tie now, anyway. You know, there's no away goals. You know, so there's no. The only jeopardy we could potentially get from it is extra time and penalties at the end of the day. So, you know, we're not having to chase a game in that sense. We've got to stay in a game. So we've got to put the right personnel that's going to stay in the game and potentially win the game. Would that mean bringing Tomiyasu in? I think to be honest with you, probably going to have to. I would risk it. I would risk it. We can't afford to have Zinni playing in that game because we'll just get murdered. To be honest with you, you know, I think, you know, Jorginho or Thomas Partey's got to come. Someone's got to come in and help Declan Rice, because he was greatly exposed yesterday. He was doing two people's jobs, and that's where I was saying about the Douglas Luiz situation. I personally think Mikel Arteta looked at that and he thought to himself, he may be able to cope in there on his own, because Douglas Luiz isn't in there with one other. The two that they got in midfield there, he may be able to cope with them in there.
Yeah.
And ultimately, you can see he was run ragged in there. You know, you can see he was trying to cover two positions because Havertz wasn't doing what he had to necessarily do on the aspect of the defensive side of the job, and then obviously Zinchenko coming in and making things even worse in some respects. So I think we're going to have to look at, let's be solid. We've got to go into that game solid at the end of the day. And if it goes the distance, it goes the distance. If we can nick something, great. But it literally is a one-off game, and it depends upon how he wants to manage that particular game. Because if we go with what we did yesterday, we'll get beaten. We'll probably get beat heavily. So it definitely has to be a little bit more cautious. I say a little bit cautious, but we are, because we are away from home. It's going to be it's an intimidating place to go and play. But we are. It's a 90-minute game that we're away from being in the semi-final, and that's the way you've got to look at it.
Yeah. It could go to extra time, obviously, and obviously, like you said, all the way to penalties. But Steve, we haven't won a big game away from home all season. Can you see that happening on Wednesday, or not?
Yes, I can. Everything we've said today is still just a drop in the ocean, isn't it? There's still 6 games to play in the league. There's still a game in the Champions League to play tomorrow. If the mentality has to be right in the fact that, okay, we've lost the game, we've got a chance to make up for it. City might not get maximum points from their remaining 6-7 games, whatever it may be. We have to try and get maximum from our 6 or 7 remaining games, and in every game. So you don't throw in the towel just because of a loss. And I think that's the reactionary part that we've been through in recent years, is as soon as it's a loss, it's all over, it's done. No, there's still plenty to play for. We were not favourites to win the league. City were favourites to win the league. Liverpool were favourites to win the league. Even when we were top of the league, we weren't favourites to win the league. So
no. Sorry, I have to correct you there. Because sorry, Steve, but the narrative today for Liverpool is that they overachieved. They've made 6 signings. It's been a rebuild, and haven't Liverpool overachieved to be where they are? We can't have shots at them. We have Arsenal because we're in the title. Just because we were in the title race last year, we're the ones that have been effectively labelled the bottlers. Even though, like you said, there's games to play, and we win on Saturday against Wolves. Looking ahead, and we win against Chelsea. We effectively could be a couple of points clear before City play. Yes, there are 2 games in hand, but. But sorry, continue, Steve. But just to say, Liverpool overachieves. That's the narrative from all the media outlets. Liverpool overachieved. So let's scratch that they're favourites. Sorry, go ahead.
So I disagree with that, because on Sky Sports, whenever I heard Liverpool or the commentators talk about Liverpool, it was I put them above Arsenal because they've been there, they've got Klopp, and they've been there, they've done it, and they've got Salah. So they all put us below Liverpool and put Liverpool ahead. So I don't know what's happened in this multiverse where we've somehow gone from not being in that mix to it should be us that's in that mix. But I can dig up some receipts if people like Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville, and etc. want me to dig those up. Especially when Liverpool went top of the league, and it was they could all see Liverpool doing it because they've been there with City before. And this Arsenal side isn't that good, especially when you look before Christmas. Especially when you look before Christmas, there's a lot of receipts there. But anyway, it's cool, isn't it? It's cool. I'm gonna remain positive. Whatever will be, will be. We go to Bayern, and I'm confident. Like I said, our away form has actually been better than our home form. Yes, you can say we haven't done it in so much of the big games. But we've got results, and that's what we need to do. So we will get a result. Yes, we have to be cautious, and we have to respect Bayern because A, they're at home, B, they've got the experience themselves. 11-time league champions before Granit Xhaka came along, and we just have to go there and say, well, look, you know what? We've got nothing else to play for other than this game right now. So let's go and impose ourselves. Don't be silly with your mistakes. The Gabriel pass in the Bayern Munich game, the one that come to the goal, when he sort of blind passed it, was almost reminiscent to the Jorginho one when he did in the game yesterday. The body shape and everything was almost exactly the same. And I looked at it and went, why are you playing a pass like that? And then they go and score, obviously. It's because we're trying to overplay. And I think, like I said, at home, I think because the players have that expectation that they must win instead of we will win, it just clouds things very so slightly. So I'll remain positive. I've had time to sleep on it. I've listened to all the pundits, just Paul Merson yesterday, just going, no, City, and I've heard Jamie Redknapp go, well, I want to say that teams are still in it because he's a Liverpool guy. He doesn't really want to say that we're still in it. He just wants to say that Liverpool are still in it. And Liverpool are the champions. Man City have just ruined their party, and then just watch out for us. We're going to ruin both their parties and still win the league. So more for it.
Cheers, Steve. What's your thoughts, Dan, for Wednesday? I mean, you confident? You like Steve? You got and Brian. You think? I think this is a minerals test now, isn't it? This is the Arteta said it. This is character. If you're a leader, you got to lead now. And you can't just chuck away all the work we've done. The worrying thing is that this is the third season in a row where we've had a wobble in April. Last time it was the top four chase. We know what happened there. Last year it was the title race chase. Yesterday it was the West Ham game where we went 2-0 up and then we chucked that one away. And it seems like we've had a draw midweek, and now we've had obviously a big defeat yesterday. Are you worried that we kind of will go on a little run, or do you think this is a perfect chance for us to bounce back? Where, like Steve Salah said, we're kind of not. People aren't really expecting us to sort of do anything out there. They're probably expecting Bayern and Kane to do what they did to us again in the first leg. But what's your thoughts about Wednesday?
I'm a bit of both. I'm a bit hopeful. But on the other hand, I'm worried about. I'm not worried about the ability on the pitch of the lads. I'm worried about the mental state right now. A lot of them guys looked really dejected after the Villa game. Like you said, Mike, only Odegaard came out and was waving and clapping the fans and that. Rice looked really dejected and there was a great sense of dejection around the ground. So that being said, I am 50-50 for the Bayern game. Bayern have just lost a title that they've won how many times in a row. So for them, they're either going to come out all guns blazing because they're going to be like, you know what, we ain't winning the title now. We've really got to go for the Champions League, or they'll be a bit fragile from it, be a bit sad, and being at home, they might be under really, really increased pressure. So that could play into our hands. However, I think the main thing we've got to get right is the tactics and the starting 11. If we can get that right and just keep it tight, not make any silly mistakes, then we can put ourselves in with a good chance. The starting 11 is going to be important. If I'm honest, I want to see Havertz up top, playing in his home country. I want to see Havertz up top and Saka wide. And I think I probably would prefer to see Martinelli starting despite his poor form. But Trossard seems to be much better coming off the bench for the last half hour or so. And they're missing quite a few players, Bayern, aren't they? They're missing Coleman, they're missing Alphonso Davies, and they're missing one more. Who's the other one missing?
Is it Kimmich?
Pardon?
Kimmich? Is he?
He is enough. Gnabry's missing. Gnabry's got an injury.
Oh yeah, he's got a problem, but I wouldn't be surprised if he rolls out. If they roll him out, or he's on the bench. But we're just saying, Daniel. So on that team there, you would put Martinelli in. So the only change there would be what? Would it be left back? Would it be Tomiyasu, or would it be Kiwior back in?
Oh no, but it will be Tommy. 100%. It will be Tommy left back. It'll be Tommy left back and Martinelli on the left. I think that left hand side is a problem for us. We haven't really sorted it out. Like how the right hand side kind of picks itself. The left hand side is so transient and it's an issue for us. But one thing I don't want is for it to go penalties because I think Bayern at home and Neuer in goal is an absolute beast. Penalties. So I just wanted to go there.
Yeah, there's so many ways it could go because I probably would go with that team again with Tomiyasu as left back, and I'll probably go Jesus left wing because of the work rate he can do, and in the Champions League he just seems to find this composure which isn't there in the Premier League. You know, we saw the way he set up a goal, his goal record in the Champions League is amazing. Just something happens to him when he plays in that competition. But I would probably go with him there just to kind of get the work rate in because we're going to have to do a lot of work. And then maybe Martinelli, you put him on the last 20, 25 minutes to sort of, hopefully, if we're still in the game, to maybe offer that threat on the counter because obviously by that time, if the game is still level, they're going to be pushing a little bit more to try and get a winner. Again, you can play Martinelli in that situation as well, but I just think, again, he just seems to be so off it at the moment. But I'll probably will go Jesus instead of Martinelli, and then obviously Tomiyasu instead of Kivia. What would you do, Brian and Steve?
Yeah, I would go with Tommy at left back, and I would go with the European game experience of Jesus on the left. You know what you probably know what you're going to get from him out there anyway. You can at least get the work rate, and and there's going to be it's more likelihood this time we're not going to see too much of the ball as much as we did at home, obviously, as well. Yeah. So we're going to need some, people are going to be prepared to kind of, do the doggies in there. That's for sure. Yeah, that will be the kind of the two changes that I would make, and just as I said, just keep. You keep the game solid, but ultimately, what we have to do if we're going to create chances, we've got to bury them. And there's going to be no second chances in a tie like this. If we don't take the chances, we will get we will probably get found out with their general experience that they've got. So whatever openings that we create, and good openings that we create, we've got to punish them. And that means if Havertz is going to lead the line, he has to lead the line. He has to be in and amongst and around that 6-yard box. If Saka or Jesus gets to a byline, or he's got to be a nuisance in and around a 6-yard box. We don't want him kind of dropping off, and then again we got no one in around it. Just be a nuisance. Just be a nuisance all night to their centre halves. Because an opportunity will drop in and around. We will create something. It's not a case that we won't. We will create something, and we're going to need to take those chances. And these,
So especially with the chance we missed yesterday. So Steve, what would you do? The same, or I think you mentioned before, you said you start Zinchenko in number 10, and
wherever he wants to play, Mike. I think I'm going to agree with both the other guys. Look, Tommy starts at left back. He's got a bit more pace than Kirill. And you know what you're going to get. I think we can afford to, even if he doesn't play the full game, we can afford to start him and then bring him off should we need to.
Yeah.
In midfield, I think, as Brian said earlier, it has to be one of them, either Partey or Jorginho next to Declan Rice. However he wants to flip that up is up to him. I'd probably start with Jorginho. And then maybe after about 55 minutes, bring on Thomas Partey. He still has moments of doing stuff that no other player can do. Is finding Odegaard in the tightest of spaces. He just gives the ball, and them two have a good relationship. So whichever one he starts with, I'm not fussed. But if Partey's fit enough to start, then you probably start him, and then maybe play Jorginho. But then again, it's a flip of a coin. I'll touch on something that you said about Saka earlier. More of a question, guys. Is he being coached that way? Because Saka, when he first burst onto the scene, was beating players. And is he being told that, if there's no options available to you, then just pass it back, keep it safe, keep the ball, keep possession, instead of going on to beat a man when we don't have, when Jesus is up front, he's not going to be in the box. So he's going to beat his man, get into the box, and there's no one there. And again, even with Havertz up front, again, he's going to, if he was to take on his man, beat his man, get into the box, is Havertz going to be there or thereabouts? He still might be a bit further back because he's trying to link up play, and I kind of believe it's being coached out of him to just go in and go and beat a man. Like with the inverted, Arteta would have one person that he'd like to go all out, so that's your Martinelli on that left hand side, and then one person that's a bit more conservative. In recent weeks, Saka has taken on players more than he has done that at any other point in the season, but there is nobody there in the middle to put that ball in, or to get that cross in, for example. So it's usually cleared by a defender, and that's where we need the striker. Havertz to play up front for sure. Jesus to play on the left. I kind of agree with that, just to tire them out. But at the same time, if depending on how the game goes, Arteta shouldn't be afraid to pull him at any point. So, if after like 25 minutes he's going, actually, I think there might be more change of getting somebody with pace on there, pull him off. Like, don't be afraid to pull him off. Of the players to pull off, you pull him off, and then stick on Martinelli, for example. But Zinchenko can play up front if he wants.
It's going to be it's going to be a big night. Obviously, you've got the other game as well, which is disappointing that they put it on the same time. City and Real Madrid game. This is the first leg, that was mental as well. But yeah, fingers crossed. We've got a couple of extra games to play. It come the end of April, and whoever it is going to be, a massive test. But we just need a response, don't we? We just want a response to whatever the result. We need to see that these guys care and all this work they've put in to put themselves in this position. It's not just going to get thrown away like we've seen so many times before with Wenger sides. It used to be March, wasn't it? We used to the rules used to come off, get into April, and it seems to be happening then. So let's hope we can keep going. As long as we don't see this guy again, we don't want to see this guy on the touchline in Germany. As long as we don't
like I said, Mike, look. Ultimately, like last season, it's been a good season. We're talking about possibly getting into the semi-finals of the Champions League. We're talking about potentially the title still going to the end of the season at this late stage. This is massive for us. And if you go back even just 3 years ago, we weren't talking about it.
No,
we weren't in that conversation. So we've made huge steps. Part of our players learning and Arteta's learning is to learn quickly and to learn well. And that means using your squad. For players, it's managing certain games in certain situations, remaining calm. I think we said it over the weekend about Man City. No matter whether they're losing 4-0 or whatever, not that they lose 4-0, but whatever the scoreline, it's relentless. It's coached over and over and over and over and over again. Still play the way you play to win the game. Don't panic. You don't have to always force things. And it takes a while to get to that for teams like ourselves. We will get there, whether it's this season, next season, or the season after, we will get there. It just takes time to coach that in and then to bring in them right players. Again, the reason why I'm saying it's on Arteta's fault and Arteta's shoulders, and not his fault, but just on his shoulders, is because the team is his now. Majority of the players he's either signed and they're his decisions and stuff like that. And if you're giving players contracts, you should play them. If you don't trust them, why did you give them a contract to then not play them? It doesn't make any sense. So he must have some trust and faith in them. He just needs to give them minutes. And when you look at the squads in terms of ours and Man City's, and I think I've mentioned this before, Mike, Pep squad, their players average about 30 games per season. Arteta wants our players to average 70 games per season. That's why Saka plays every damn minute. 30 games per season.
Saliba as well. And you can see, and I think Rice pretty much as well. But, you know, with all the fallout and the reaction and everything, you know, you look at the table. I mean, we play twice before City play again, you know, and, you know, just wishing it into existence. You know, we could be on, 77 points. City could be on 73. And then their next game is against Brighton away. You know, they draw. They don't have to lose. They draw to Brighton, and then they win their other game in hand. And it's level pegging again, isn't it? And it's goal difference, and you know, so yeah, it's going to be tough still. But it's just to say, people throwing everything away and stuff. It did feel like that yesterday. It's gone, but no, it's still a long way to go, man. Still a long way to go.
So, come on.
Yeah. Fingers crossed. No, thank you so much, guys, for your time. Thank you, Daniel, disappearing behind that brick wall of Saliba and Gabriel. And appreciate your time, man. And Brian, thank you as well. And Steve as well. Thank you very much. Thanks for all the support. Obviously, you can listen to this on your usual platforms: YouTube, Spotify, Acast. We'll be back hopefully with a quick review or wrap with after the Bayern game. Hopefully, if we've secured that passage into the semi-finals, and obviously, we'll be back after the Wolves game as well to talk about that. Hopefully, back on the charge, back top of the league. Hopefully, regardless of what happens on Wednesday. But thanks for all the support, guys. Have a lovely rest of the week. Thanks for getting the message and the dress code. We really appreciate that, and as well, all black as well. And we'll see you hopefully on Wednesday with a victorious quick show. If not, we'll see you on maybe Saturday evening or Sunday evening with a review of the Wolves game. All the best. Have a lovely rest of the week. Come on, you Gunners, and there's still fighting us left. Let's go.
Remember, Giroud into the box, and they have immediately.